totally agree.
Okay, I want to continue talking about LoRa and LoRaWAN. So this week we're looking at the LoRa, so the kind of physical media access control layer, and you can use the LoRa module, which is essentially what you have an ESP32 with a Semtech SX1276 module. And so I have, you can buy an SX1276 for about the cost of your module, but you could take the SX1276 board and attach it to your 407 ARM board and do some LoRa communications using that. And so Semtech has the patents on the LoRa sub-gigahertz. And so, but there is a LoRa alliance of many companies to push this technology forward. And then there's also the LoRaWAN, which is the upper layers. It's kind of like you can think of like UDP or TCP on top of IP kind of idea. And so this week we're dealing with the LoRa communications. There are some great libraries actually for communications if you're doing either this term or next term, things to do with maybe you have NRF 2401 radio modules or things. There's a library in the Arduino world from a group called Radiohead, which does mesh and all sorts of different setups. It's quite a great library. If you want to communicate, you want to use your LoRa modules, you want to use 433 megahertz modules, you want to use all sorts of different things. They probably have a driver for it in that kind of thing. Anyway, so and there's setups for doing mesh and doing all sorts of things in that one as well. So the LoRa Alliance is made up of a bunch of different companies, and they have the specifications there all about the coverage and developers and all of that. They also have a nice little page on, let's accept this kind of thing, what is LoRa and what is the specification here. Low power, wide area networking protocol designed to wirelessly connect battery operated things to the internet in regional, national, or global networks and targets key Internet of Things requirements such as bidirectional communication and security. So this specification defines device to infrastructure, physical layer parameters, and LoRaWAN protocol to provide seamless interoperability. So this week, we're just going to use the LoRa modules. We have one of the samples has its own kind of a simple addressing, a 1-byte addressing. And so in the sample code, you have to put in who you are, what address you are, and you have to put in the end target address. And you can also put in FF, which is its version of just broadcast. And so all the receiver's code will then listen and then respond to that. So you can broadcast out to everybody or just an individual. So that's the sample we're using just on top of the LoRa. So you see here LoRaWAN network architecture. So what the LoRaWAN part does over the LoRa, our physical layer, is it then essentially looks at your link layer and above. And so we're saying, okay, you have some sort of, instead of just device to device, you have some sort of gateway. And so we have a gateway up in the 204. And so, and it connects to a back end and it connects to the LoRaWAN network called the Things Network. And so there are others, there are commercial ones. I talked about, there's one called Helium, which actually has blockchain things, and some people with the early routers were making tons of money on it. The LoRaWAN people set up or tried to get everybody to put their gateways on, and they provided the back-end infrastructure, and it's all free to go and use. And so we're going to look at that in the next week's lab. And so this week we use the LoRa to communicate device to device. Next week we're going to go on top of that and modify an example to connect up to this network. And so connect to our gateway and then send stuff to the back end. The one neat thing about the gateway and all of that is my end device doesn't have to be really that smart. It needs an SX1276 chip on it to be able to communicate. But for instance, downtown Victoria, if there were multiple gateways on different buildings, my transmission might be accepted by multiple gateways, because we can get, if you, depending on what you look at, they say in an urban area 5 kilometers, depends on your antenna, depends on where the gateways are, all of that kind of thing. But you can get 5-10 kilometers out of this thing. Multiple gateways could see the data. And what the gateways do is they forward it to a server over here, the network server, which takes input from multiple gateways and then deduplicates it, looks to see if there were different transmissions, what the signal strength of the different transmissions are, pass on the best one to the application servers, and it goes to the application that you set up. And next week you'll set up an application on the Things network. And the neat thing is that from your device over to the your application, it's all encrypted. It's AES encryption. And so we can have a look, and we will have a look at information coming from the gateway that's up in 204, and it will give you the bandwidth it's and the frequency the packet came in on, and the spreading factor, how much of the chirp goes over the air, and then but you'll see the payload, and the payload is just random, what seems like random garbage. It's AES encrypted. And then if you go look at the packet that actually comes in to your application, it's decoded, and then it's in whatever form that you put it in. And typically, you'll have maybe JSON formatted or something like that. And you can, or one that we'll use is low power protocol, and I'll explain more of that. And if it knows what format the data you're bringing in is, it will decode it and show it to you right in the application server. And so that's kind of where we're going with this. The gateways just forward it off to the network, and again, you could have multiple gateways hit it. And one of the things it does is it says, okay, I have multiple packets. Here was the best signal, and so I'm going to forward that packet. And then if there was data needing to come back to your end device, it knows what gateway it got the best signal from, and it'll send it out that gateway. Okay, so, and that technology, that figuring things out, is all done over on the network server, and your end device doesn't have to worry about it. Okay, so it's pretty cool. There are other technologies around. For instance, Sigfox it uses a similar kind of idea with the spread spectrum and low low data rate, wide area connections. They say they have a worldwide kind of network. Sigfox, you can buy Sigfox modules just like you can buy the LoRa modules. Sigfox sets up a back end, and you subscribe to it. You pay so much to be able to have that. It covers a lot of Europe very well. So if you bought a Sigfox module, you probably don't need to worry about a gateway. The same pretty much is true with the LoRa, with things like the Things network. In North America, the Sigfox has it's kind of limited to some of the big cities. It's, I wonder, do I have, they have a nice, oh, their coverage. Let's have a look at their coverage, global coverage. Look. And so, in the blue areas are well covered. So I'm well covered over there. Oop, eh. The purple areas are not so well covered, but the blue areas are. So, I mean, there's some around Vancouver, and there's some in some of the different cities all around Calgary, all of that kind of thing. So, if I bought a Sigfox module in there, there's nothing. Well, Vancouver there is, but not over in Victoria. So, some of those areas, again, they primarily started over. You see all of the blue area here. So that's Sigfox. It'll give you the same kind of thing. You subscribe and pay per, kind of message that you're sticking out. We're going to look at the Things Network, and again, next week's lab is all about the Things Network. Now, one of the things that Bing, oh man. Microsoft loves to come up and go, yeah, I know you didn't pick me as a favorite, but we'll just do it anyway. Okay. And then, so the Things Network, I'll see if I can see the coverage map in a sec. The Things Network, you can sign up, it's free. You can set up gateways. They'd love you to set up gateways. As a gateway, you accept things from anybody. And you just forward it on. And again, it's encrypted, so you're just packet forwarding to the back end. And this is using LoRaWAN. It's a Things network. There are other networks you can attach to. There are even commercial networks that you can attach to. Different telcos and things in different parts of the world have their own versions of it as well. Or you could just set up a completely private network and not go on the back end of anything. So if I go to a gateway, for instance, I've got the gateway here. For a number of years, we've been running these, and as of December 1st, they're switching over to whole revamped everything, and so they've changed things slightly. It's not compatible with the old way of doing things, so we had to put it onto the new network. And so it just kind of shows you that this is the one that's up in the lab, for instance, and it says last activity was 24 seconds ago, so it's connecting to the back end. I received the Things back end receives information from the gateway. There's uplink and downlink messages. One of the things about your little devices is they can be battery powered. You'll see everything from 10 to 15 years on a battery. Depending on what you're doing, you might decide that, hey, really, if I have to change a button cell every year or something like that, or a little LiPo every couple of years, or depending on how much you're transmitting, and if we're using the LoRaWAN stuff, you're talking about bytes of information that you're trying to send, and not again, not streaming things. I'm reading sensor data, I'm updating it every so often, and you put it on the back end. You're supposed to not use more than 1% of your network. So you shouldn't be on more than 1% of the time. So that's kind of the thing that they have. But here's some information going. And so I see that I have a downlink message here. So one of the things with the LoRaWAN protocol is that I can, it's asynchronous. I wake up whenever I wake up, maybe in response to somebody opening something. Maybe I had an interrupt fire when things, a light turned on, whatever. But the back end has no idea when I'm going to communicate. So I wake up and then I send a message. One part of the way that there's different ways of connecting up in the LoRa WAN. There's different classes. It's called class A, B, and C. And the way we have it, the lowest power way we have it is in the class A. And what it does is it says, okay, when I need to transmit something, I will wake up and transmit. Hopefully there's a gateway around that sees it and then forwards it on. Now there's an option. I might need to get data from my application. That's that application that we're going to set up. I might need information from that. I might say, change your wake up time. So when the next time you connect to the gateway, then I want to tell you to wake up once an hour instead of once every 5 minutes or something like that. So I want some information coming back. And so when I transmit, then there are two slots, there are two time slots when I need to wake up after transmission and listen in case somebody's sending me information. So I transmit something whenever, and then 100 milliseconds after I've transmitted, I listen for something to come back. Or maybe half a second after that, I wait for some information to come back. And so I'll go to sleep after that, but I'll wait on those two windows. Perhaps the server is going to send me some information. So it's a way of you doing two-way. And in the Things network, I can set up a packet to send some information, and the next time your device goes and connects, it'll get that information back in that download window. Again, we most of the time want to be asleep. We're trying to preserve that battery, but I will have that window of opportunity. Now that's a class A. There's also ones where it says, okay, I might need that because this is asynchronous, so I don't know when the heck the thing's going to transmit, but when you do, I'll send you back information. But you could say, I need to possibly tell you something more often. So class B says, we'll set up time periods when, regardless of whether I have anything to send, I will go and communicate with the server because you might want to talk to me. That takes up more battery power because I have to keep waking up even if I didn't need to tell the server anything because they might want to tell me something. So that's a class B. And then a class C is I'll transmit whenever I need to transmit, but I'll always listen. So that is not battery friendly at all. Okay, so there's a bunch of data coming on the Things network here. And if I just look at, for instance, we have, let's have a look at that message over here. And it says the gateway was Victoria 3. And then here's the raw payload. So here's the information that's being sent right there. YLP 5D, whatever. That is AES encrypted stuff coming from my device that is somewhere. And there's a device, it's a little, what's called a little blue pill. It's a little $2 ARM board that has an SX1276 chip on it, and a DHT11 temperature and humidity sensor, although we'll look at the data. The humidity has gone to 1, so I might need to replace the humidity sensor because it just sits in my window in the back of the office and sends whenever the heck it sends it. And it has a light-dependent resistor, so I can tell when it gets dark and when it gets light and, all that kind of stuff. Or if somebody turns on the light. It is, the one in my office is wired to a blue pill, which is a little ARM board like your 407, but just the board, it's about, they're $2 in China or whatever, so you can use the ARM without all the other stuff on your breakout board, and I connected it to an SX1276. So it's what you have, except I used an ARM instead of the Heltec chip. I've done the same with Heltec chips, but I was trying to check all the different things that were available. Because if you want to use it on a 407, for instance, your existing ARM boards, put an SX1276, now it's a LoRa board. So anyway, so that's, and it says, hey, the bandwidth here is 500 kilohertz. We transmitted at a frequency of 9.25 megahertz. It's spreading factor, and again, we can it's when it goes and transmits and negotiates things and gets information back from the gateway. The closer you are, the stronger its signal goes. It can put more throughput through. The longer range you are, the less it's able to get data through. It will change its transmission method to try and get the data through, but maybe at a lower data rate. And it's the whole infrastructure is set up to be able to do those kind of things. So if I have that, then and then some of these just gateway status is just telling me, hey, where the server is. The origin IP is US West, some server on the back end. And then I have applications. So this is just the server going, and as you all in next week's lab get your devices up and going, we'll start to see all sorts of traffic from all different devices here. I wonder if it's told me where's my downlink. Some of the uplink messages also can be things like just notifications that the gateway is talking to the network routers. This one, it sent the frequency at 9.233 megahertz, highest priority, and then where is it here? There is the gateway's EUI. I was trying to see. I thought it would tell me the name of the device that it was. Again, the raw payload. But I thought it would tell me the ID of the device that it was sending off. I think. Okay. So let me go to application because I don't see it there. And if I go look at applications, I just have now I had a bunch of ESP8266 temperature sensors here. The actual one that's, so I have I can have a application and then a bunch of different devices under that application. So here I said ESP8266 temperature sensors, and I just put the one that was in my office. So I should probably just call it temperature sensors because it's running on an ARM board. But you could have an application, delivery trucks, and you have one of these in each delivery truck. And so you have delivery trucks as your application and then all the devices under that. And then you can have a common thing go from each of the different devices to your interface, giving you data from all the different things, like maybe location and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so you can like triangulate.
Oh, yeah, you can do that, and you can also depends on a number of these. You could have a small GPS module on it and send different data as well. But yeah, you can put all of all of that kind of information is small bytes to be able to send stuff. But you can definitely triangulate. I'll bring in the little tags that the group did for ski tags. And so they had it so that if you had one of the gateways on a mountain peak or each mountain peak, you can triangulate with the how strong the signal is coming to each gateway and say, hey, it's about here. And then they had a little handheld unit with a little directional antenna that would map out which direction to go. So somebody isn't found. We can see from the triangulation that it's somewhere on this side of the mountain, and then there's a handheld device that they can just zero in on it, and it just gave you an arrow and try to estimate the number of feet away, and so then you could ski hopefully down to do the rescue. So that's what they did with that. Yeah.
I'm still a little confused on like the structure of the system. So we have like ESP32 to LoRa.
Yep.
That can collect information on sensors and send it from the LoRa to the gateway.
Yep.
And what is the gateway?
So the gateway is there's behind 204, the door just in around the corner. There's a little on top of the vacuum. There's a little cyan or kind of blue little board. It looks like a Wi-Fi router, and I've turned those off. It can do Bluetooth and it can do Wi-Fi as well. I turned those off so we don't interfere because we have our other router. But you could have an all-in-one. And so it's the gateway. So I had to connect it to the Things network. So there's a bunch of security stuff to put in. You go and get a Things network, that other page that you saw, and say add a gateway, and then put in your information for a gateway. Gateways used to be, well, could be around $500 and things. Um, uh, there's a company called Rack that made some boards to put on Raspberry Pis, and they sent me one actually. And you can build your own gateway. They were about $100 for the boards. You can use your LoRa boards as a non-compliant gateway. There's code out there to say you're a non-compliant gateway, and we talked about this the other day. What a non-compliant gateway is I talked about when you transmit, it can transmit different amounts of data, use different bandwidth over different frequencies. You're 902 to 928 in North America. So you can transmit over all of that. And so it's going to try and find a good, to try and maximize the data that it puts through, and it will pick things. Now, if you use our gateway in the back, that one probably was $300 or $400, the one that's in 204, or I used the little rack one that was $100. They are compliant because they will listen on multiple channels at one time. And so if there's different nodes and they're going across different channels, I can get that. If you have another health tech and you want to be able to put it in and get it out to the Things network, you can have a non-compliant gateway. You can only listen to one frequency at a time. So you can be anywhere in the 902 to 928 and say, I'm going to listen at 915. And that's fine. You then need to modify all your devices that are transmitting, if you're just wanting to talk to your gateway, to only transmit on 915. And then it'll work. But if somebody else, it's non-compliant, because I'm trying to transmit, I'm somewhere in the neighborhood, and your gateway won't see my signal because it's only listening on one. And I may transmit at 915, but I'll transmit on something else, right? So that's where, but you can do it on the, you can just use one of the health techs and get your information going for sure. Otherwise, there's a bunch of gateways, and a number of companies, including the Things Network, now sell little gateways in different places, like I was mentioning Munich before, and a bunch in Europe. There's a number of cities that have gateways already set up. There are gateways in town, and some of the things I've had in the past, because it's hit and miss where I go. I've been in over by the Western communities at, I don't know what they call it, the West Shore Mall or whatever it's called now out there. And I had a gateway at my house over in Gordon Head, and it saw it. And so there's some applications, you can get Android applications that talk to some of your devices and then will map it as you're driving around. And so I'll get a whole bunch of nothing, and all of a sudden I'm out in Colwood or Langford, and all of a sudden my house sees it for whatever reason, however it got through. Yeah.
How do you prevent your gateway from, like, how do you filter it for your data?
The idea behind this is you don't filter it for your data. Everybody takes 1%. It's AES encrypted, and if you're joining kind of the community, you take everybody's and forward it. So just like we saw in the information over here, I'm taking everybody's data. And if you're anywhere around the college, in fact, last year, when everybody was locked down, couldn't do anything, in making something like this happen, some people that were close just drove by the college, and they had it, plugged into a battery, and it's like, yep, you were close enough, we saw you, and other than that, um, I just took their code and ran it on my device at home that was close to the gateway I have, kind of thing. But the idea is that if somebody sets up in a town on top of some of these buildings downtown, you'd only need a gateway, or if there were a few, you could have 3 or 4, and it would cover all of downtown Victoria. You have, one on, UVix building, it would cover it. Better outside than inside. Ours is in the back behind the door at 204. It would be better to be, well, one of the problems is I got a big mountain on one side with the antenna. That's where I need the thing, and then it would cover this whole area, right? kind of thing. Commercial would, this is connecting up to the Things network, but you can totally be on another LoRaWAN network and just exclude everything that isn't from you, and just you have your own private network. You're not forwarding anything. This is a community network, and so your gateways say take it and forward it. So if somebody else is on the Things network, and again, there's another network is called Helium, and they would sell you boxes that basically did what the Things network did, but it's on the Helium network, and they would pay you in kind of a blockchain thing. And some people that did Helium routers in like the San Francisco area were making like $65,000 a month in these transactions and things. But you know, that's you say blockchain on anything, and the early people make money. So anyway, so the ESP temperature sensors is an application, and I can have different devices and things on it. If I go over and look at live data, so I'm going to click one of these. Let's click that one there, and you'll see that I have, where are we here? So in my decoded payload. So here's the payload. Here's that garbage that was coming up that we saw in the gateway, but it's AES encrypted. And then it said, hey, the luminosity is 1011. I just have an LDR attached with as a voltage divider, reading it into an A to D. It's about 500 when it's, you know, night out in the window of my office, and it's right now it's reading 1011. Lights are off, but it's in the window, and so that's what we get. And then in the humidity, I don't know, since I moved it over to the gateway, it's reading 1. It's a DHT11, which you guys may have. I don't know if you guys have it or not. It's a little crosshatched unit. So so it's not a bad temperature sensor, humidity sensor, you know, and so it's decoding that. It's saying my humidity is 1. It's saying the temperature in my office is 18.7. Again, the gateway couldn't see it. It's just all encrypted, but I have an application and I decode it over here. So that's kind of where we're going with this on the next one. So hook it into this back end. So as long as you're close to a gateway, I had a unit sitting in my shed in the backyard for a number of months, and I didn't realize, because I was getting data, and I didn't realize that my gateway wasn't up. And then I go, but I'm still getting data because somebody else, I don't know where, somebody else over in the Gordon Head area has a gateway, and I was still getting the data through. And I thought, oh, my gateway's all fine. And then I go, oh, my gateway's not plugged in. How am I getting the data? Because it's close enough. Somebody's got it. And again, you can improve things. Inside is the worst. You're going to cut down a lot from that. But, you know, it's a nice end-to-end kind of way of going, getting your data through. Perfect for things like, again, if you have, where is it here? Perfect for things like monitoring humidity sensor, tracking things, put something in a vehicle. You can, if you were monitoring different temperatures across crops, things like that. There are other technologies, though, that you can use. This is really good for low, for sensors, basically. So you're talking about not needing to send data all that often. It's not a lot of data. It's really good. Some of the things that have come along since, for instance, Bluetooth LE, especially Bluetooth LE version 5, you can get kind of a kilometer range. Again, you're not getting the same data as if you were right next to something. As you go off in distance, you're giving up some of that throughput. But there are some of these things that are kind of in a similar kind of space. Let's go. Okay. I was going to, I'll talk a little bit more next time. There's a guy named Andreas Spies. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's got a little blurb. We'll maybe start off next time and look at. He's got a bunch of videos on LoRa and LoRaWAN stuff. He's got a nice one talking about why it is that it's able to get the distances it can get, and about his link budget, which is kind of worth a look. But I've talked for too long for us to look at it, but we'll talk about it next time. And then talk a little bit more about the lab. One of the things it sometimes is a little bit you have to take things slow. It's encrypted, and so you have to. There's a bunch of security things. You can't just say it's name and password and we're good enough. And so it wants to authenticate that it's you. There's things in it that it doesn't want replay attacks. It doesn't want somebody to listen to your sensor and be able to replay it. It has all sorts of things in place to stop all of that kind of thing from happening. So there are a bunch of keys that you have to put in. And there's public and private sections of the keys in order to be able to be authenticated on the network. So you have to go slow, generate things, and put them in the right places in your code so that it recognizes it as a valid device. And so we just have to go through. If we talk to putting a device on AWS or Google's cloud end or Microsoft's, those same kind of things, certificates and all sorts of things have to be met to verify that it's not some rogue device on the network. So you have to go through the same kind of thing. So anyway, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you.